All right. Excuse the rugged exterior. I didn't get into my Sunday best to wake up and do this review. I finally listened to all of Boards of Canada's new album, front to back, on record. I had first listened to the album on Bandcamp. Actually, no, sorry, it was on YouTube. And here's the thing: I was gonna wait until right at the ring of midnight to listen to this album because I wanted to do it proper, right? Proper release date in America. Bandcamp didn't even end up dropping it at midnight, so I'm glad I just went ahead and listened to it at 11:30. Poor impulse control, I know. So, Boards of Canada. I've done two other reviews. I've done a review on Tourism. I've done a review on In a Beautiful Place Out in the Country. That was, I think, 2018, 2019 when I did those. I was all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I had no idea if Boards of Canada were going to make a new album. I was kind of a new fan. My friend got me into them in college. Thanks, Chase. I really thought that maybe someday we would see an album. My friend who got me into the group did not think that. He said, Tomorrow's Harvest, that's got to be the last thing they'll ever do. That's such a final closing note. They're never going to make a new album. And then we had the tapes. When my friend said, Jackson, I think this is real. Like, people are getting tapes with the hexagon symbol on it. I was mildly skeptical. People like making fake Boards of Canada songs almost more than they like trying to apply for a job. By the time that there were, 7 or 8 tapes already, I was like, wow, I guess this is real. And then people were speculating, well, it might just be for a Boards of Canada box set, or it might be for a, before the re-release of Tourism. And I'm thinking, are you fucking kidding me? This tape with all this symbolism, that's for a re-release of Tourism. Fuck you. We get tape 5. That's a really cool moment. I would put it along the moments of me, really enjoying Campfire Headface and sitting outside. Or, when I heard Gio Gotti traveling to Dallas, Texas with my friend, and we were going over that big bridge in Dallas. All of those associations are important to my listening experience of Boards of Canada's music. But the fact that we got this far as fans, we got to see this tape 5. We got to see this thing drop, and it was beautiful. It may be one of the best things I've heard from them. And I'm not just saying that out of hype. I'm saying that out of the chords, the atmosphere, the visuals that went along with it. We get the introit, Prophecy at 1420 millihertz. Sorry, I'm bad with these titles. My initial reaction is, okay, this is pretty darn good. It took me a few listens to really appreciate it, but I was instantly happy that guitars were back on the menu. Whether or not that the album was guitar heavy, the fact that we even heard those guitars, I was like, yes, I love Campfire Headface. I like the old Random 35 track. A few old tunes. I like the tunes where they're clearly playing around with guitars and processing them and doing whatever else to them. It sounded both, classic Boards of Canada, but also, very high production, very high grade production, rather than everything being completely processed to high hell, and you can't even make heads or tails of what is happening. And I love that stuff too. That's some of my favorite stuff. All this is a precursor. This is the first time I've really heard this band release a single when I'm aware of it. I was not aware of Tomorrow's Harvest in 2013. Anyway, I'm going to go into this album track by track, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
All right. So, third track on the album, Hydrogen, Helium, Lithium, Leviathan. I'll be totally honest. When I first heard this, I was more impressed by the intro of the song rather than when the percussion comes in. 5 or 6 listens, however many listens I've done, this song has grown on me. It's a good one to have at the beginning. This one I would almost feel is kind of a crude cousin of something from Tomorrow's Harvest. On Tomorrow's Harvest, they mentioned the composer John Harrison as an influence. The guy who did the score for George Romero's Day of the Dead, he also did the score for Creepshow. It's just their own playing of live drums or a drum machine, probably both. It's that plus the that's sort of downtrodden, plodding kind of unease. That's all over Day of the Dead. We're still getting out of the Tomorrow's Harvest era, and we're getting into something new finally. Not one of my favorite tracks on the album, but pretty darn solid. The intro is my favorite part. It's, in the backwards sort of processed instruments. That's all tight. I like it. As a continuation, the outro with the chords. That's fantastic. I like that it's kind of this brassy synth kind of maybe not triumphant, but it's something very grand. Okay, Age of Capricorn. In the beginning, that I don't know if that's like a tremolo, knows what it is, but it's really airy and cool. But yeah, this track is kind of the start of the heavily vocal sample kind of stuff. A lot of people were not into that. I don't mind it so much. They kind of let it breathe a little bit with the ambient sort of tracks in between. But I like this track a lot because when it first starts, A-U-M-A. Okay. Interesting. It almost sounds like Terrence McKenna. I don't think that's what it is. The end of it really, fifth or sixth listen, I mean, this is a great track. Somewhere out of the abyss, you hear this chant. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. And then when the choir comes in, it's like, oh, there's some sorrow here, or maybe it's hope. I can't fully detect it, but it's so masterfully done. I really enjoy Age of Capricorn. Up next, Father and Son. So this is a pretty, I guess, controversial track. I like it. Amongst their best material, probably not. It's kind of a callback to Telephasic Workshop. The choppy vocal sampling, and you hear some of that stuff in their live stuff at the War Party or whatever. It's that with the religious context of a guy, I guess, kind of disowning his father or wanting to distance himself from his father because he's joining this cult or commune or whatever it is. I like that the vocals are rhythmically like compacted with the drums, and it's not just samples kind of freeform time and then the drums happening. No, it's like, I don't know how your mother, brother, or sister could be your enemy. I mean, it's just like, it's really tight. Somewhere right now in the future. It's not very long. It says 2 minutes and 26 seconds. Guitars plus warped synth plus, I don't know, running it through 7 or 8 reel-to-reel tapes until it's completely degenerated. This makes me think of somebody who's old and they're thinking back to when they were a kid. And then vice versa, there's a kid thinking, I wonder what it's going to be like when I'm older and I'm sitting on a rocking chair at some assisted living facility. I think some of the heavier percussive tracks on this album aren't as emotional, and that's not a bad thing. But it's they have a vagueness to them, and this is more calibrated to me emotionally. It's one of my favorites. It really is on this album. Maybe one of my favorite Boards of Canada tracks in general. I don't know. Sue me. Don't sue me. I don't have that much money. Naraka. Once again, this track has been talked about a lot. I mean, people have already made full-length fan music videos for this track. It's a fan favorite. It's, it's kind of like, I don't know, like Nothing's Real or Cold Earth or Roy G. Biv in the sense of the impact it's having amongst the Boards of Canada fan base. Classic Boards of Canada percussion with that unease behind it. Pete standing alone. Ready, let's go. Music is math. Like a build up. I think one of my favorite parts about this track, and this kind of underlooked, is in the build up. There's those almost like the synths are recreating vocal sounds, like a choir sound, but it's low frequency choir. And then eventually, the Hare Krishna chant comes in. That's what everybody talks about. I'll say this much: uplifting for a song that's apparently translated to hell. It's classic. It's classic in the way Peacock Tail, Dave and Cowboy. It's got that cinematic quality and uplifting quality as well. Good track. Not one of. I don't know if it's one of my favorites. I like it more than Hydrogen, Helium, Lithium, Leviathan. So I'll say that much. Okay, Acts of Magic. Once again, the more ambient leaning, especially esoteric type of tracks are more of my favorite on this one. And I'm not a percussion hater, but they kind of need each other, right? Because if it was all ambient, people would be complaining, "Oh, there's no percussion." Okay, if it was all percussion, "Oh, there's no ambient segues." So what do? They give us best of both worlds, baby. The amount of people who are, and I think it's good. I think it's good that people are honest. I loved it. I think it's one of the best things they've ever done. It's better than Music Has the Right to Children and blah, 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 and Gio Gotti. Okay, fair enough. There's people arguing over that. Like, really? You thought this was one of the best? Really? You thought this wasn't very good? It's like, shut up. Can we all have our individualistic experiences with music? Why does it all have to be the same? And there's people that don't believe you when you say you like it or you don't like it. It's just like, shut the fuck up. I'm enjoying it for what it is. I'm really, really grateful that they made a new album. Anyway, Acts of Magic. This is one of my favorites. Yeah. The short, really weird one they used for the I think the first promo film. It sounds like a diesel truck starting up. I was listening to it with a friend of mine, and I asked him how this track made him feel. He was in Afghanistan, and he said it made him feel like when he was in Afghanistan, but there wasn't anything going on. It was just a waiting for the next operation. It was waiting for the next call out. It was insects buzzing around in the desert and seeing helicopters come in and quiet. The calm before the storm. That's another thing, is listening to this album on streaming, even with a good set of headphones. I finally got the vinyl copy of this album, put it on my stereo, adjusted the bass a little bit, turntable and receiver. That's what did the trick for me. This Acts of Magic track is booming. I mean, it's just so bass dense, and then it literally feels like the sun is on your back and you're working in an oil field. Amazing promo film too. One of my favorite tracks. 10 out of 10, or 5 out of 5. Memory Death. Once again, kind of in the same vein as some of the, Somewhere Right Now in the Future or Acts of Magic. I mean, it's one of these emotional, not fully ambient, because I think there is a chord progression in this. It is what it says it is. It's pretty on the nose. What do we think of? We think of death. We think of assisted living facilities. We think of hospitals. We think of family and friends. We think of God. We think of death. We think of the afterlife. The machines that keep us tethered to this world. The female vocals that almost sound like angels calling you to the afterlife. I mean, it's all intense. And when I first heard this track, I think it was one of the first tracks where I was really like, oh shit, like that is very heavy. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that, like, immersive, no preconceived notions, kind of thing. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Another one of my favorite tracks on this album. The Word Becomes Flesh. Okay, so this there's something really specific I want to mention on two of the tracks on this album. These boom 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 boom. This sounds straight out of a Lucio Fulci film by the composer Fabio Frizzi. He did the soundtracks for movies like Lucio Fulci's Zombie, Manhattan Baby, City of the Living Dead, all these movies, and he has a very specific style, and this track really embodies that. Everybody always talks about how, I think they're influenced by John Carpenter. Okay, fair enough, but Fabio Frizzi is deep in these guys' DNA. For an interview for Tomorrow's Harvest, they did list Fabio Frizzi as an influence, and there's a lot of this on this Inferno album, a lot. So I guess they really grew up watching those naughty VHS tapes, from people like Lucio Fulci. I mean, the artwork The font for this album is that bleep or bloop font that's used for the Cannibal Holocaust soundtrack. I mean, it's, Video Nasties, Giallos, Italian horror. It's all over their stuff. But other than that, a lot of vocal samples. A lot of people have talked about this being a pro-life song. I don't know that for sure. It could be. Who am I to say it's not? Who am I to say it isn't? I don't know these people personally, and a lot of people seem to think they do. So I don't know. I think it's a good track. I'm not even gonna go into the big hype about it being used in a film currently because everybody's talked about that. Tense tracks that never really resolves, and I like that about it. Into the Magic Land. This one is I always forget about this track. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's more of a happy remembering of like, oh yeah, this one's really good. The synths on this one are more, it reminds me of something out of the 60s. Sure, I mean, listen to Introit. That doesn't sound like it came from the 80s. It sounds like it came from a 1972 PSA about safe sex. Really heavy build up. It's more positive. It's a little bit less uneasy, but it still has a little bit of that non-resolve to me. I think it's in a major key, but I'm not quite certain. It might be in a minor key. It's classic juxtaposition of moods, but I like the really shaky tremolo. I love that. Every time they use it, I'm like, shoot more of that into me. I love it. Also, we get electric bass on this. It's nice to hear some electric bass on these records again. I can't think of the last time I heard an electric bass guitar on a Boards of Canada record. There was none on Tomorrow's Harvest that I know, unless it was processed to the hell. Maybe Campfire Headphase, I think, had some electric bass. Maybe. Once again, takes me back to Italian horror movies. And they're, probably wondering, why am I bringing that up so much? Fabio Frizzi. I grew up watching these movies. All of them. Cannibal Ferox, Cannibal Holocaust. And this band's music, like, I want to bring it up rather than just a classic, oh, this sounds like John Carpenter, this sounds like Vangelis, which are both great and important to that culture as well. But a lot of people, Fabio Frizzi isn't really a household name unless you're super big into horror movies and Italian film scores, I hear it all over their work, all over.
Into the Magic Land's a good track.
Blood in the Labyrinth. Yeah. Awesome. The latter half of this album, to me, is where things really get good. It's halfway point. That's when things are really punchy to me. I mean, the obvious thing everybody kind of gravitates towards is the use of a sitar, maybe a tambura. That is great, but there's also the chord progression itself is so triumphant. It's really big and cinematic, and to me, it's even more cinematic than something like Tomorrow's Harvest. There's more light. There's more warmth. I like Tomorrow's Harvest. Actually, Tomorrow's Harvest used to be my favorite Boards of Canada album before Gio Gotti took that throne. It's not completely barren like Tomorrow's Harvest. The shakers, the percussion on this track, excellent. I wonder if George Harrison would have liked this, or if he would have just written it off and been dismissive about it. But I love this track. I might even like Blood in the Labyrinth more than I like Naraka, and Naraka is really, really good. Deep Time. I already went over it in terms of the singles. I'll say it one more time. One of my favorite Boards of Canada tracks. Beautiful, serene, hopeful. It's beautiful. It's one of the best things they've ever done. I don't give a shit at what anybody thinks. All Reason Departs. This is one of my least favorite songs, and pitchforks may raise up in the air. I don't think it's a bad track. It's okay. I'll put it this way. It's where it belongs. It's a good segue track that's longer. Not a segue track as in how short it is, but a segue track to transfer you from one emotion to another. So we just got done hearing Deep Time, something hopeful. This track is not hopeful at all. I think there's like an Aleister Crowley speech in here or something. It's interesting. There's both Christianity in this, Hinduism. It's like a buffet platter of esoteric spiritual studies. Not only do I hear, these big drums and bass, you also hear some outer percussion on this, some stuff that maybe sounds like bongos or shakers or whatever. I love that stuff. That's probably the best part about this track to me. And then it kind of goes into this like aw-tecker, squelchy kind of funk kind of beat at the very end. That's pretty cool. I like it. I think it's all right, but nowhere near one of my favorites. Arena Americanada. Once again, we're going full Fabio Frizzi mode.
That's straight out of one of his movies. Those chord stabs are the most Fabio Frizzi thing I've ever heard. It's like, it's right out of that textbook. But also, not only that influence, I hear a little bit of the German band Can on this. Those 16ths that sound like they're done with 1,000 shakers and tambourines and bongos. Once again, one of my favorites on the album. I have a lot of favorites. So I want to just counteract that with all the times I'm saying, well, this isn't really my favorite, one of my least favorites. There's a lot of stuff I like on this album. There's a lot of stuff I love on this album. It's something that isn't exactly Resolve. It's awesome. It's action-packed. Like, this is a very cinematic Boards of Canada track. Also, one of the coolest Boards of Canada song titles, Arena Americanada. I don't know. Is that like the Life Church big televangelist type of thing? Is that what it is? Or is it, like Bloodsport? I don't know. I think this is the best percussive type track by the brothers on this album. Awesome track. 5 out of 5. Okay, so we got the process, however you want to say it. Kind of in the realm of segue tracks, even though it's 3 minutes. It is spooky. I like it. I love the vocal samples of somebody over an intercom in an airport or a terminal.
The process reminds me of an old movie called Threads. And Threads was about, before, during, and after a nuclear event. And there's a scene where there's a hospital and they're trying to take care of everyone they can, but it's just chaos. People's eyes are falling out. People are suffering from radiation poisoning, and there's chaos, and there's people fighting each other, and there's that guard with the face mask, and he's disfigured. It's like even the people who are supposed to protect are messed up. Good track. Another good segue type track. And it fits perfectly on the album. It's not something I would just pull out on its own to listen to, but in the context of this album, it's perfect. This one is going to be hard for me to talk about because it's hard for me to sum up how it makes me feel. I'd seen the track Father and Son. I thought this was Father and Son. I wasn't looking at the track titles. I had my eyes closed. I was drinking a beer. And I was thinking, this is Father and Son. This has to be Father and Son. This uplifting, beautiful, reminiscent song. It wasn't. This was You Retreat in Time and Space. The reason I thought it was Father and Son is because this made me think of how one looks at their own offspring. The beautiful thing about life when you really care for somebody. And it also made me think of people who are not here anymore, people who have passed on, friends and family I don't see anymore. And, what else can I say? It's beautiful. It's some of the most beautiful synth work they've ever done. I would say it would fit somewhere along that music has a right to children type of thing. And then it goes into something completely different. It goes into this 70s funk breakdown with guitars run through flanger and phaser or whatever. This is one of the best nostalgic type tracks they've done on the album and probably one of their best tracks they've ever done. I get why people feel as strongly as they do about this track. It's gorgeous. It's flawless. And nobody's telling me with a gun to my back to say that. I'm not just saying that because Pitchfork said that's what you should think. I really do love this track. And it increased my love of the album altogether. And I'm so very grateful I got to listen to it for the first time as a fan. I saw Through Platonia. The first time I heard this, once again, I wasn't really that impressed. I was like, okay, it's kind of like a lesser Farewell Fire, a lesser Corsair. I think that's a track. It fits, however, perfectly along the catalog of Boards of Canada closers. It doesn't feel as finalized as You Retreat in Time and Space. That almost could have been the final track, but I guess that's, Boards of Canada, as progressive and forward-thinking as they're men of tradition, honoring the past, obviously. But yeah, this one has grown on me. I think it's just right where it is. What did I think about the album as a whole? Well, there's been a lot of shit that people have said. There's been a lot of praises. There's been a lot of criticism. What do I think about it? I can't even really compare this album to the others. And that's hypocritical because I kind of have with a few tracks, but each Words of Canada album is like a different film and a franchise from the same director. Whether it's Coppola making The Godfathers or it's George Romero making, 3 really good movies about zombies. It's its own chapter in a book, and it's going to have the sprinkle of the director's DNA in it. I don't think this album is perfect by any means. I don't think it's as strong as Gio Gotti. But you know what? I think it's pretty darn great. I think it's better than Tomorrow's Harvest. But guess what? Tomorrow's Harvest was its own thing. Each album that they've done has received harsh criticism and praise. So far, I haven't really taken too much issue with this album. I think some of the percussive elements go on a little bit too long. I would have liked to see a little bit more melody. Whatever. The fact that I'm even talking about a new Boards of Canada, the highlights for me. All right, let's see. Into the Magic Land, Acts of Magic, Arena Americanada, You Retreat Through Time and Space, Age of Capricorn, Somewhere Right Now in the Future, Father and Son. Memory Death. Even the tracks that I think aren't as good as the ones I care for are really good. That's where we're at. And I'm not just wanting to glaze Boards of Canada because they're Boards of Canada and you have to, because the fan base says you have to. I'm not wanting to criticize the album just because that's the cool thing to do, is to hate on Inferno or hate Tomorrow's Harvest. I genuinely like this album a lot. And I think somewhere, right now in the future, I'll love it. I can't think of the last time I was this excited about a new release. Now that I've heard it several times, I can say I would give this album an 8 out of 10. A 3.5 out of 4. And I'm really happy I get to talk about it with you guys. So until next time, this is Jackson Fritz, Ambient Jukebox, Chameleon Factory. You can check out some of my own music on my Bandcamp or my YouTube channel in the link below. You can like my bass covers. You can buy my albums. You can do anything. You can leave me a thumbs down if you want. But thank you for stopping by, and I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.